This is Paul Wood at Twist or Stick meets Darren Foley, MD of Pearlfisher. Hi Darren.
Hi Paul, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. How are you getting on?
All right, thank you.
Good.
All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Can we kick off with a bit of a summary of your career to date, career highlights?
Wow, okay. So I did my A-levels. I took a job as a junior in a design studio in Victoria. After that I spent best part of 10 years working at Holmes and Marchant.
Yeah.
Where from the bottom to the top almost. And then left Holmes and Marchant to join a startup out of Holmes and Marchant called the Sandon Partnership.
Yeah.
Which was in fact where I met you.
That's when I met you, yeah.
And I spent some time with the Sandon Partnership as a startup, growing that business. And then after about 5 years, I guess, with those guys, I decided to focus on London. So I moved into London, spent some time at Brand House, which was formerly Wickens Tut Southgate.
Yeah.
And then I found my way to Pearlfisher, where I've been for the last 13 years.
Nearly there.
Yeah.
So tell us about Pearlfisher.
Pearlfisher's an independent design business. I think reputationally, we've got one of the best creative reputations, certainly in the business in the UK, and more I think that reputation is finding its way on a sort of global stage. I think the nature of sort of communications, both social and viral and all those other sort of facets of communication have allowed us to kind of reach further and further. The business itself is passionate about design, which I know you might say, well, of course it would be, it's a design agency, but I think there are a lot of design businesses that perhaps aren't as passionate about design and creative excellence as we are. It's the primary goal of our business is to deliver creative excellence, but make sure that's embedded with a commercial return. You know, we know we're not here just to draw pretty pictures and make things look good and for them not to exist in the real world. We know we've got to actually make those things exist in the real world, and they've got to perform. And you know, if our clients' businesses are successful on the back of the work that we do, then we're going to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So that's really the sort of crux of what we do and how we do it.
So career advice, now you mentioned a few of the companies you've worked at along the way. Any piece of career advice that stands out to you, the best one you've been given over the years, or the best one you've nicked that you now give to other people?
I've been given quite a bit of career advice along the way. I think the first kind of area of advice that I was given was around your principles, your integrity, and not compromising those, your standards, your personal standards, and making sure that you kind of live by those and you don't, because as soon as you've kind of diluted those on any level, then kind of really the game's over, right? So I think that's been a key part of kind of the advice that I've had over the years. But also listen, don't speak has been quite a big one. You know, actually listen to what people are saying. Don't just go shouting your mouth off thinking you're sounding intelligent when you're not. And that it's just a question of just actually trying to listen and empathise with what's going on in any given situation, whether it's in a client meeting or an internal meeting or whatever it might be. And all those things I think have stood me in good stead along the way.
Inspirational people you've worked with or come across in your career, I'm sure there's quite a few.
Yeah, well,
not to upset anyone
in the room. Yeah.
Anyone in the room.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone who stands out for you.
I think. Look, this is going to sound incredibly crass, but I've been at Pearlfisher for 13 years.
Yeah, there must be a reason for that. Yeah.
And there must be a reason for that, right? And I think I would say that the way in which the founding Pearlfisher partners set up their vision for their business at the beginning, and the way in which they have maintained those principles, maintained that vision throughout 22 years of business, stands as an incredible inspiration to me, if I'm honest. I had my 10-year anniversary 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I said that to those guys then. I said, look, the reason I'm still here is because I'm inspired to be here on a daily basis. I actually enjoy every single day that I'm here. Of course, there are challenges, but these the reasons you come in to work is to feel that you're empowered, you've got the autonomy to kind of achieve your own personal goals as well as the wider business goals. So all of these things kind of resonate with me, and therefore that's the kind of thing that inspires me and when I look to other people.
Creative briefs that you've worked on over the years, what's the biggest or the best brief you've had drop on your table?
I think when I was thinking about this as a thought, I think what immediately pops into my head is the work that we did with Absolute.
Yeah.
When I arrived at Pearlfisher, Absolute were a client of maybe sort of 2 or 3 years already, but then that whole program of work with that particular client just seemed to then sort of go from sort of level to level.
Yeah.
And the excitement of creating brands, the excitement of developing existing brands, kind of empowering us to kind of try and break new ground when it came to both vision for that brand in its entirety and through its packaging, through the sort of key customer connection points. Those were huge briefs, and that was an incredible journey. And I think everyone that was involved with that brand at that time felt empowered and excited to be on that business. So I think that stands out as
pretty good one.
Quite an exciting bit of business.
If you were to summarise the current state of the industry at the moment, I suppose as a whole, how would you summarise it, or what are your thoughts on it?
I sort of think about this as like a business that's just sort of seeming to come of age. I think design for quite a few years, perhaps for its entire existence maybe, has almost been perceived to be the sort of the little brother of advertising, and not taken and dealt with as seriously by brands, businesses, clients as the world of advertising and communications is. I think design's coming of age. I think we as design businesses, are learning the true value of what it is we do on a daily basis for our clients, the value we add to their businesses. And I think what we're trying to come to terms with is not just that, the fact that we're coming of age, but also the sort of tension between sort of creativity and being perceived as a professional business service.
Yeah.
And kind of extracting the sort of the financial stability that needs to come out of that. I think advertising businesses for a long time have been very good at kind of positioning themselves as not just brand partners but business partners, and I think that is how I think the industry is at the moment. It's going through that period of evolution where it is becoming much more the trusted business partner of clients, and clients are seeing the value through that, I think.
With looking back sort of on your career, but also when you left your studies originally, if you looked back at a younger you, grabbed hold of him, had a quick chat with him, what advice would you give him? Young Darren Foley.
God. I'd tell him to be bolder. I'd tell him to take more risks, explore more. I say this to my kids already, is that particularly in those sort of early years of your career, if you've targeted a particular sector that excites you, and the creative world excited me, to know that right at the beginning it's fluid, nothing's fixed in stone.
Yeah.
So explore, try stuff out, see what excites you, what resonates with you, what you get most excitement out of doing and energy out of doing, and not be afraid to kind of try and try new things, or try something that might be a little bit risky, and I think that sort of plays also into the kind of the company you keep, because I think if you think about your own personal values, and trying to then map those against potential companies that you think match those values, and you'll both get something from that relationship. They will get something from you, but you need to get something from them. Otherwise, why are you doing it? And I think that's quite tough to do that if you wind the clock back to when you're 20, 21, 22. To try and think of yourself strategically like that. But if you have the ability, if that was the advice I was giving myself, that's what I would be saying. If I was winding the clock back all those years.
It's tricky to do in terms of the sort of age span, in terms of when you finished and now if you finished today as well. It's quite different advice again, maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, look, old head, new shoulder.
Yeah,
is that right? Old head, new shoulders, or whatever. New head, old shoulders, whatever it is. But the principle is that it's very hard to give someone at that age any advice when you kind of you want to get out into the world. Yeah. But I think I would have told myself to maybe be a little bit more
braver,
risk averse.
Inspiration. I know you said you're working with some good guys here, some inspirational characters.
Yeah.
What particularly inspires you outside of individuals? What sort of things is there anything particularly that at the moment you're inspired by in the creative industry, music, anything particular?
I think, there was something yesterday that really stood out for me.
Yeah.
Because it was the commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the start of the First World War.
Yeah.
And I thought there was an installation at the Tower of London.
Yes,
I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And it sort of captured a moment. It captured an emotion, which you don't get that very often. I think we work in branding. I think we all can probably identify great pieces of work in our portfolio, and we think about the great stuff that we've done for clients. But that for me was a piece of thinking that just seemed to just capture an emotion and empathy for something that was obviously so hideous in many ways, but just seemed to sort of do it in a beautiful way. The aesthetic of it was incredible. The meaning behind it was so deep. I was very inspired by that.
If you weren't in the industry and you'd taken a different path, what do you think you'd be doing? You can't say footballer or a rock star. You can do if you want. But
it's funny. I look about it. I look at my time in the business, and I think I've thought about this quite often, and I get so much enjoyment of being in the business. I find it quite hard to think about what it would be if it wasn't in this business. But my only other passion in life has been, since I was probably 8 years old, has been riding my bike. Okay, so I'd probably own a bike.
Tour de France.
I've just come back from the Tour de France.
Oh, right, there you go.
So I'd probably run my own bike shop.
Cool.
Maybe if I'd had a bit of vision, I might have started the Rafa brand, but
wow,
I'm not sure. I quite had that vision.
Apart from brands that you've worked on, any brands that you'd love to have a crack at that you haven't already had a go at working on?
I think the brands that excite me are the big brands that live kind of in the shadow, the big iconic brands that perhaps the number two in the market, they live kind of in the shadow of the number one player.
Yeah.
So I think about Pepsi versus Coke.
Yeah.
Coke is it's such an incredible marketing machine, and yet Pepsi just seems to sort of exist in this sort of shadow of Coke, constantly trying its best. And that for me would be an incredible brief. Adidas to Nike,
Yeah.
Wimpy to McDonald's, to sort of pick out a British kind of idea. Those kind of brands which just really, with some they've got the size, they've got the kind of the business momentum, but they just need to be given the edge, and those kind of brands are the kind of brands that would really excite me.
Pitches that you've been involved with over the years, any that you care to mention here? Awkward pitches, funniest moments on a pitch, in the pitch, before a pitch?
There aren't many funny moments in a pitch.
Okay. Awkward ones or bad ones?
Don't know about. I think my most embarrassing moment in this whole business, and it wasn't a pitch.
With your clothes on.
With my clothes on, was a long time ago when I was an account exec. I'd been asked to go over to a client to drop some work off. Literally, I figured I was just going to the front door, dropping the work off and going. And as I walked through the front door to drop the work off, the PA to the marketing director said, "Oh, so and so wants to see you while you're here." At which the blood runs from my cold from my face, and I get taken up to the marketing director's office, great big corner office. I walk in and I'm just this kind of 1 year in account exec, and he sits. He says, "Sit down, please." And I said, "Great." He said, "I'd like to give you a brief." At which point I look at myself, I look down, I've got no pad, no pen, no nothing, and I said, "Is there any chance I could borrow pen and paper?" And he looked at me and said, "An account man with no pen or paper, what the hell's the world coming to?" And to this day, I have never gone to a meeting without a pad and a pen, because I just learnt that lesson.
That should be your career advice.
Maybe it should be. There we go. Yeah. Never turn up to a meeting without a pen and a pen. I could have, the ground could have opened up and swallowed me, I tell you.
Mars are a tiny brand anyway, aren't they? So
yeah.
If you had a magic wand and I could grant you a wish, anything you could change about the industry, anything you'd want to change today, and it'd be done for tomorrow?
Loyalty. I'd want
brand loyalty.
Clients, businesses, brands to be loyal to their agencies. I think there's a lot of it that goes on. But, we've got some great examples of clients and brands that have been with us virtually from day one. I think it could that kind of level of kind of connection could be just taken to a whole new level if people thought about the value of those long-term relationships, the way in which how the nurturing way in which those relationships can really add value in the long term, without any compromise with regards to sort of freshness of creative thinking or ideas. That should be a two-way street, and that should be something I'd love that to happen. I really would.
Okay, Darren, quick fire round now.
Okay.
Favourite current brands?
Oh, it's got to be Rafa.
All-time favourite?
It's going to be another bike brand, Campagnola.
Double espresso or green tea?
Double espresso every way.
Fine. Brightest person you've worked with? Do you have a guy and a girl on this?
All right.
One of each.
Okay. Brightest person I ever met, male, Steve Crowther.
Yeah.
Planner from Homes and Marchant Days. Girl, Yale Allerton, our current strategy director.
Cool. Most creative person you've worked with to date?
Can I have two?
You can have two. Yeah.
Current creative directors, Natalie Chung, Sarah Butler.
Yeah. Cool. Independent or network?
Independent.
Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Cool. And finally, twist or stick?
Twist.
You weren't sure, were you?
No.
Thank you very much, Darren.
Thanks very much, Paul. Cheers.